So I'm here with Stephen O'Dwyer, the CEO of Warp Traffic Management. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Going well, mate. Going really well. So let's get into it. So a little bit about Warp Traffic Management. I think everyone in Perth would have seen your business at some point in time on the roads. I doubt if there's anyone that drives a car that hasn't seen you. So
yeah, well, the business was established in 1997, so it has been around for a while in Western Australia. It was one of the early businesses to privatise or be part of that privatisation of traffic management as it transitioned from the state and local governments into private enterprise, and has obviously kept pace with the Western Australian environment as the state has expanded and grown, and there are different aspects of traffic management that have been brought to the forefront with respect to worksite safety. Back in 2015, the company decided to stretch its legs and have a look at the East Coast with respect to opportunities for expansion. And to that end, we started a business in Sydney and one in Brisbane. So the East Coast operation is very, very successful now, and is a big part of what we do. The market over there is a lot bigger than it is here in Western Australia. So there's a fair focus on that side of the country.
And I'm guessing there would have been some learnings along the way, expanding your business across to the other side of the country.
The core business is very similar from state to state, but each road authority has its own particular way of managing us as an industry, and each state has its own road rules and regulations that need to be accounted for and adopted. There's also particular differences with the way that the public relates to traffic management on a state-by-state basis, and I think some of that has to do with density and population density and the types of roads that are there for the general public to drive on. So there's certainly that. From a business growth perspective, there are always things that pop up that you hadn't expected. The inevitable cash flow implications of investing in any business growth enterprise, I suppose, which is just a little bit more difficult when it's on the other side of the country. Because certainly from a people perspective, it's with a head office in Perth and let's say a growing business in Brisbane, it's a 5.5 hour flight away, which is a bit of an exercise if you need to make things happen quickly. So that brings about particular attention that's paid to the appointment of senior leaders in the business and how it is that they go about appointing their leadership team down through to our operational staff, our infield staff on the ground, and their way of building and maintaining relationships with key customers. So there's always the out of towner kind of attitude that comes with it. Look, New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria are probably a little less parochial than Western Australia and South Australia, which makes it a little easier. But there's, always the new kid on the block that, that moniker needs to be addressed.
And how has that helped you grow as a business leader? Or forced you to grow as a business leader?
I think it's, every new challenge, every new aspect of a changing and a growing and evolving business presents new opportunities to learn, and to some degree pushes you to explore ideas and learnings from others. So, I found that I've reached out a bit more to my network and to others that I know have been there before me, and certainly done reading and had a good look at those case studies with respect to particularly sort of interstate expansion and what that's meant. Building strong relationships with our financiers and supply chains, and a lot of those businesses are national in their own right. So bring about an opportunity to learn from them as well. And our supply chain's been awesome in supporting our growth because they know the types of trials and challenges that we had ahead of us. But I think the big learning is tapping into the network that I have and using those guys to provide the guidance that I might need in those areas that I found that maybe I wasn't as clever as I thought I was in moving the business into another state.
We all have those learnings, don't we? Yeah.
Yep.
How have you found keeping culture within the business with the remote or the Eastern States operations? Like, do they run with the same culture as what you do here?
Well, no, I think each business unit, particularly when it's geographically diverse like ours, sort of develops its own feel, its own way of being, and part of that is because of the different influences that each business unit has on its growth and its expansion. Our core values are, reasonably consistent across the business, and a very strong focus on us being a family business and having a family orientated attitude to those things that we do. And I think when you reflect on what a family is, it's always diverse. And there's a million different opinions, and the thing about families is that they're not scared to share their opinions, and we find that that's relatively the same across the business. So they're the things that are really important to us, and people being sort of conscious of key things from an industry perspective around being safe and wanting to respect the plant and equipment, the tools of trades that they've been provided, and for the most part, they're again consistent across the country. So I think it's being rather than insisting on business units being mirrors of one another, which I just don't think is practical. It's more about, are they buying into those core values that are important, really at the heart of the business. And understanding that as a family, all families have differences, and the better you can navigate those, the more fun the Christmas dinner is.
Absolutely, and it's about having fun in business, isn't it? That's the real thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what's the thing that's inspiring you to keep going the most?
I don't know. There are days I wake up and I ask myself that question. I'm not sure that I can give you an answer. I think at the core of everything we do is about providing a safe environment for those that work on and around roads, workers on foot. Yep. And me personally, whilst it wasn't the driver at the time that I started the business, certainly over the last 20 years, it's evolved into understanding that there are all of these different professions and trades and technical people and semi and unskilled workers that are out there every day working on and around roadwork sites that need a level of protection and safety, and what we do provides for that. And part of what we really sort of buy into is looking for new and innovative ways of being able to provide that service, and to want to continue to deliver a high degree of professionalism in how it is that we approach things. I think that's really what's at the core of it, and the opportunity to get in and be around people that are truly committed to what it is that wanting to achieve. The interesting thing about traffic controllers and our industry is that it's still considered relatively fragmented, and it's core employees relatively unskilled. And it's not the truth. Those that are getting to know our industry, understanding that traffic controllers becoming more and more skilled and highly trained, and with the introduction of different devices and plant and equipment, that the level of responsibility and care that they need to take in their roles is escalating every single day. It's not the traffic controller with a stop-slow bat, standing, or maybe sometimes sitting on the side of a road, waiting for a car to come and then turning the bat around and pointing them where to go. It's a lot more complicated and sophisticated than that nowadays. And I'm inspired by some of the people that I see that embrace that and are really keen to see the industry continue to evolve. So, it's really around being part of what from the outside people might think is still, a council worker kind of driven environment, but the truth is on the inside is a incredibly innovative and diverse workforce of people that are committed to delivering that sort of level of safety for workers on foot out in the field.
And that's pretty important, particularly now as we come to this sort of post-COVID phase. Has the rate of change escalated after COVID?
No, COVID, interestingly, COVID changed how we were appointed, there for a couple of years. So, there were traffic controllers who went from working on major projects and roadwork sites to manning border closures and COVID testing centres and those sorts of things. Yep. But by way of sort of differences in the way that we work as a business, is probably the same as every other business in Australia, administratively learning to work remotely and putting those business systems in place that allow for that, at a push of a button when the Premier says that's it, we're all going home, that we have the ability to do that. A little more challenging across the country, but again, it's really more systems driven. But from a workplace perspective, other than New South Wales, where the Premier there shut all industry down for a good period of time, most of our guys were still working. It was just what it was that they were working on, and how they went about it. And sitting in a vehicle, having to wear a mask and those sorts of things, and washing their hands and hand sanitizer and those sorts of things. But really, they're just sort of small byproducts. But from a COVID perspective, the rate and level of innovation wasn't impacted by COVID at all. Those sorts of things, because more broadly, as an industry, we've been about making the role safer for those that are performing it every day, because they are, working with live traffic, and sometimes that's on, high speed, high volume roads, and providing a better way of doing that and a safer way of doing it is front of mind for all business leaders in our industry, to be honest. And those key suppliers to industry are working on ways of improving that level of safety for those that are out there working as well. So, yeah, COVID really, from that perspective, made no difference to us.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And look, it's a big thing, safety, isn't it? And it's been in the press quite a bit in road traffic management as well over the years. And it's like, what's the next step you see in that?
What, with respect to innovation?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's going to be a significant evolution of our industry. Okay, so what we're seeing is a desire for all workers that are exposed to live traffic, to have them removed from the roadway. So people identify traffic management with the stop slow back, the worker standing there with, turning that around. That role specifically is disappearing. Okay, so here in Western Australia, for instance, on all state-owned roads, you won't see a stop slow person anymore. They will be a traffic controller. You'll see a device, whether it be temporary traffic lights or boom gates or other devices that allow for the traffic controller to be somewhere other than standing on the roadway or next to the road. And there are a whole range of other pieces of equipment that are evolving at the moment. They're using things like AI and how they identify risks and hazards that might be there, and traffic volumes, all of those sorts of things that are leading into that role becoming more and more technical by nature, and providing opportunity for it to be more remotely, operated, which I think will change. I feel like, within 10 years, a traffic controller will be quite a specialised and a very technical role, because there'll be a lot more that they'll be looking at with respect to safety on the work sites than just simply stopping a car whilst there's a piece of work being undertaken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my last question for you is, what's inspiring you most at the moment, or who or what is inspiring you the most?
I think, following on from what we were just talking about with respect to the rate of innovation in our industry, that's certainly getting me out of bed every day. We're spending a lot of time looking in through that lens and in that environment, and we're trying to be particularly innovative ourselves as a business, and with the introduction of pieces of equipment and plant and devices that we're designing and manufacturing inside of one of our business units, and being fortunate as an industry leader to be part of the conversation in what that looks like as it starts to evolve. It's also pretty cool to watch some of the much larger businesses take leadership positions in our industry around, introducing some of these more innovative devices, because it provides some confidence for others in the industry to start to invest when they can see that has been de-risked. So again, I reflect on a comment I made earlier around us being sort of seen as this fragmented ragtag band of an industry, and it's just not true. We've got businesses in our industry now turning over hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's quite a number of them now. But more pleasing is they're wanting to be seen as leaders and invest in those devices, plant and equipment that continue to move our industry forward, because that kind of says to our broader customer base that this is the way the industry is going, and then they're more willing to adopt when they see that as best practiced, as shown and demonstrated by the larger and more sophisticated businesses in our sector. So, there's a lot to be pretty excited about. And when you look at the pipeline of work that we have here in WA and across the country, there's a lot that needs to be done. I guess we need to keep one eye on where each individual government is by way of their desire to also constrain spending, and I guess cross our fingers that they still want to get all of this work done that they said that is there to be done. But they're pretty exciting pipelines of work, which again provide a level of confidence to invest in new ways of doing it, and providing new layers of security and safety for those that are out there working and doing it every day.
Awesome, Stephen. It's great to hear you taking control of your own future and being an industry leader. It's an exciting story that's still unfolding in the years to come. So really appreciate your time and thank you for the chat.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Paul, and thanks for the invitation to have a chat.
Not a problem at all.